I spent 24 hours living exactly like an Amish farmer. No electricity, no excuses. But here's what nobody talks about. It wasn't the lack of electricity that nearly broke me. It was something far more dangerous, something hidden inside the rhythm itself, something I didn't see coming until it was too late. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the one psychological trap that most people completely miss when they try to live like our ancestors did. If you've ever felt drawn to the simple life, if you've wondered whether you could actually survive without power, or if you just love learning how people in Amish communities actually function day to day, you need to watch this. But before we dive in, I'd love to know, have you ever tried a digital detox or lived without electricity, even for a short time? Drop a comment below and tell me what surprised you most. And please, subscribe to this channel. We're uncovering forgotten wisdom that your great-grandparents knew by heart, and new videos come out every week. Now wait, this part is important. Before we go any further, I need you to understand that this entire journey, from the detailed mechanics of how Amish farmers actually schedule their day without electricity, to the unexpected mental and emotional costs of living that way, is explored in depth in our complete survival and homestead guide. You'll find it linked in the description and pinned in the comments. It's a comprehensive resource that walks you through not just the how, but the why behind each decision. It's not free, but it's worth every penny if you're serious about understanding this lifestyle at a deeper level. Let me set the scene. I arrived at the farm just after 4:30 in the morning, before most of you even thought about waking up. The farmer, a man named Samuel who spent his entire 53 years without electricity, was already dressed and moving. No snooze button, no gradual wake-up, no phone buzzing with notifications, just the natural rhythm of light and darkness, hunger and work. That first hour taught me something counterintuitive. Without electricity, you don't actually wake up rested. You wake up because your body has finished its sleep cycle, yes, but more importantly, you wake up because there is work waiting. In Amish communities, the work doesn't pause for your comfort. The animals need feeding, the milk needs collecting, the kitchen fire needs tending. There is an invisible pressure, a kind of relentless momentum that pulls you out of bed, not because you want to be awake, but because the day demands it. By 5 a.m., Samuel had already lit the cook stove, a cast-iron beast that requires constant attention. Unlike flipping a switch, fire is alive. It needs feeding. It needs babying. If the wood isn't arranged correctly, if you don't understand the draft, if you misjudge the temperature by even a few degrees, your breakfast burns, or your water never boils. This sounds trivial until you realize there is no margin for error when your entire day depends on managing fire instead of touching a dial. Here's where the first psychological trap reveals itself. Modern life has taught us to expect instant results. Turn on the stove, heat appears. Close the door, room cools. Send a message, response arrives. Living without electricity destroys that expectation completely. Every single task requires patience, planning, and what I'd call anticipatory thinking. You don't start heating water at 5:50 a.m. for oatmeal at 6 a.m. You start at 5:30 because you know how long it actually takes. You don't milk the cows at dawn. You milk them at the time they were trained to expect it, usually an hour earlier, because consistency matters when electricity isn't managing the schedule for you. By 6:30 a.m., I had already made 3 critical mistakes. First, I tried to rush the milking. Samuel gently corrected me. The cows aren't machines. If you hurry, they sense it, they stress, production drops. Speed is actually the enemy of efficiency in a world without electricity. Second, I didn't plan far enough ahead. I was thinking in hourly terms. Samuel thinks in blocks of seasons and daily patterns that repeat with almost religious consistency. Third, and this was the humbling one, I didn't understand that rest isn't optional. It's strategic. You don't work hard because electricity lets you work around the clock. You work hard during daylight and conserve energy for evening because when the sun sets, your ability to work doesn't increase just because you're tired. This is what I mean by the hidden psychological trap. Most people who attempt to live without electricity for a day or two think they're testing physical endurance. They're not. They're testing their ability to surrender control of time itself. In our world, we own time. We slice it, we manage it, we optimize it. In an Amish home, time owns you. The seasons own you. The animals own you. The light owns you. By 7 a.m., we sat down to breakfast. Eggs, homemade bread from yesterday's baking, butter chilled in a spring house, milk still warm from the cows, no refrigeration, no preservatives, no packaging. The simplicity seemed romantic until I understood the full weight of it. Every single item on that table represented planning that happened not hours before, but days or weeks before. The bread was made yesterday. The butter was made last week. The eggs were today, yes, but the hens had to be fed months ago to reach laying age. The seemingly simple act of eating breakfast was actually the visible tip of an enormous iceberg of preparation. And then Samuel prayed, silently, for what felt like an eternity, but was probably 2 minutes. I realized I had never experienced silence like that. Not the absence of noise, but the absence of input. No background music from a speaker, no hum of a refrigerator, no distant sound of traffic or sirens or notifications, just the soft clink of a fork being set down, the scrape of a chair, the breathing of another person. The human nervous system wasn't built for the constant stimulus we've created. It was built for this, for silence punctuated by necessary sounds, for rest punctuated by work, for patience punctuated by purpose. By the end of breakfast, I understood something crucial about why Amish communities have remained so stable for centuries while modern society fractures and reorganizes constantly. It's not because electricity is evil. It's because our relationship to time and to each other fundamentally changes when you remove the technology that lets us escape presence. You can't scroll during breakfast. You can't pretend to listen while actually reading. You can't defer a conversation to later when you're not in the same room together. The next psychological challenge hit around 9 a.m., and this is when I want you to really pay attention, because this is the part that separates people who romanticize the old ways from people who actually understand them. The work shifted from the obvious, farming, cooking, milking, to the invisible, maintenance, planning, prevention. Samuel spent nearly 3 hours on tasks that generated zero visible output. He repaired a fence, he checked the animals for signs of illness, he reorganized the tool shed, he prepared wood for next week's stove, he oiled leather straps, he reviewed the garden plan for next season. In our modern world, we call this admin work or overhead, and we try to minimize it. We use apps and systems to eliminate it. But in a pre-electric world, this maintenance work is the foundation of survival. One overlooked fence and cattle escape. One animal left untreated and disease spreads. One tool left wet and rust spreads. One day of wood not split and winter becomes dangerous. The work is relentless because the consequences are real and immediate. But here's the counterintuitive part. This work, the work that seems boring and repetitive and invisible, is actually where the peace comes from. Modern anxiety is rooted in uncertainty. We don't know if we'll have enough. We don't know if we're prepared. We don't know if we're doing enough. Living without electricity forces you into a constant conversation with reality. You know exactly how much food you have because you can see it. You know exactly whether you're prepared for winter because you can see the wood stacked, the root cellar filled, the jars of preserved food lined up on shelves. You know whether the animals are healthy because you look at them every single day. Uncertainty evaporates when you're forced to maintain a direct relationship with your own survival. This realization hit me so hard that I actually stopped and asked Samuel about it directly. "Don't you get tired?" I asked. "Of course," he said, "but tired is different from anxious. Tired means your body worked. That's honest. Anxious means your mind is somewhere that isn't real. I prefer tired." Let me pause here, because we've covered some serious ground, and I want to make sure you're tracking the real insight underneath all of this. It's not that modern life is bad and old life is good. It's that the loss of a direct relationship with our survival, with our food, our shelter, our time, our community, has created a particular kind of psychological suffering that no amount of convenience actually solves. That conversation stayed with me for the rest of the day, and it kept circling back in my mind even after I left. Because Samuel had just articulated something that I think our entire culture is struggling to name. We've traded anxiety for convenience, and we're starting to realize the trade wasn't worth it. Think about what happens in a typical modern morning. Your alarm goes off. Before your feet touch the ground, you're already behind. You check your phone, 17 notifications. Your inbox has 37 new messages. 3 apps are demanding your attention. Your calendar is full. You're already anxious, and you haven't even eaten breakfast yet. Your nervous system hasn't been given a single moment to settle. Now picture Samuel's morning. He wakes with the light. He uses the bathroom. He eats breakfast with his family in silence or with conversation about the day's work. He knows what he's doing. The fence that needs mending, the animals that need tending, the garden that needs attention. There's no unexpected demand coming from a machine at 7 in the morning. There's no comparison trap. He's not wondering if he's doing enough or being enough. He's doing real work with visible results in a community that knows his name and depends on him. The neurological difference is massive. When your brain knows that the work you're doing is directly connected to your survival and the survival of people you love, it operates differently. Your anxiety decreases because your mind isn't creating fictional problems. It's solving real ones. And here's where I need to pull you back for a second, because this is the point where a lot of people misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to abandon electricity and move to Lancaster County. I'm not saying that modern medicine is bad or that your smartphone is inherently evil. What I'm saying is that we've lost something crucial in our relationship to survival and work. And the Amish community, whether you agree with their theology or their lifestyle choices, has preserved a template for how to rebuild that relationship. Before we go deeper into what I learned about how this actually changes your psychology, I want to make sure you have access to the complete framework behind this. If you want the full survival psychology guide that breaks down exactly how disconnection from real work creates modern anxiety and how to rebuild that connection in your actual life, not by abandoning society, but by being intentional about where your attention goes, that's all in my detailed guide, which you'll find linked in the description and pinned right here at the top of the comments. It goes far beyond what we can cover in this video, and it's where the real transformation starts. Now, what actually happened next in my 24 hours might surprise you. Because after that conversation with Samuel about tired versus anxious, I had expected the rest of the day to feel like some kind of spiritual breakthrough. But it didn't. It felt harder. Around midday, I hit what I can only describe as the wall. My body was getting tired, real tired, the kind you get from actual physical work. I'd helped with barn repairs, hauled water, stacked wood. My shoulders ached. My hands had blisters. And suddenly, the romantic idea of living like the Amish started to feel less like enlightenment and more like survival. I sat down for a moment, and Mary, Samuel's wife, came over with a cup of water and a piece of bread with butter. She didn't say much. She just set it down and went back to her work. But in that gesture, there was something I hadn't expected. It wasn't pity. It wasn't pride in my struggle. It was simple acknowledgement. You're working. You're tired. Here's sustenance. That's all. And that actually matters. Because in the modern world, when you're struggling, you're supposed to talk about it, process it, make it into a narrative about yourself. But in this world, struggle is just part of the day. You acknowledge it, you address it, you move forward. By afternoon, something shifted in me. And this is the crucial part that I think explains why people who live this way report such different psychological outcomes than we do. It wasn't that the work became easier. It was that I stopped interpreting the difficulty as a problem to be solved. The fatigue was real, but it meant something. It meant I'd contributed. It meant my presence mattered in a measurable way. In our world, we've separated survival work from daily life so completely that most of us never see the connection between our effort and our existence. You work a job for 40 hours a week, but the connection between that work and your food, your shelter, your safety, it's so abstracted that your brain doesn't process it as survival. It processes it as meaningless repetition, and that's what creates the anxiety. Samuel's grandfather, I met him briefly, he's 93 years old, told me something that stuck. He said, "When you can see your food growing, when you can feel the shelter you built keeping you warm, when you can see the community that needs you, you understand you matter. Not in the way the world tells you, not in followers, not in status, but in the way that matters most. You are necessary." And right there, I think, is the real secret that I promised you at the beginning of this video. It's not about electricity or technology or going backward in time. It's about the direct, unmediated relationship between your effort and your survival. That relationship is what creates psychological resilience. That relationship is what the Amish have preserved, and that relationship is what we've lost, and why we're all so desperately anxious about things that, objectively, we're safer from than any generation in human history. We have survived the elimination of almost every genuine threat to our survival. But in doing so, we've created a psychological condition where our brains are still in threat mode, searching for problems that don't exist in the physical world. So they create them in our minds instead. The Amish haven't solved this problem because they're spiritual or pure or backward. They've preserved a structure where that threat detection system has real, solvable problems to work on, and that makes all the difference. This is the secret I promised you at the beginning, and now you understand it fully. Most of us think the Amish are living in the past because they rejected electricity. But that's backwards. They rejected electricity because they understood something about human psychology that modern society is only now, through neuroscience and behavioral studies, beginning to rediscover. Your brain needs real work, real stakes, and real community to feel at peace. The moment you outsource every genuine problem, every shelter decision, every water choice, every food preservation method, every navigation task, your threat detection system doesn't shut down. It gets louder. It starts manufacturing crises. It becomes obsessed with hypothetical dangers, social comparison, status anxiety, and existential dread. The Amish farmer wakes at 4:30 a.m. not because he's punishing himself, but because he has 6 real, immediate, tangible problems waiting for him. The animals need feeding. The greenhouse needs tending. The equipment might break and needs preventive care. His family needs a meal made from food he helped grow. Winter is coming and his firewood stack is measured in precise cords, not vague promises from the heating company. These are not invented problems. They are not catastrophized or dramatized by social media. They are problems that have existed for 10,000 years, and solving them creates a genuine sense of mastery and purpose that no amount of meditation apps or therapy can replicate. When you spend your day solving real problems, your mind doesn't have the bandwidth to create imaginary ones. That's not spiritual wisdom. That's neurology. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles worry, planning, and catastrophic thinking, can't be in high alert about social status and future economic collapse, while you're also focused on keeping a fire burning, preserving meat before it spoils, or building a shelter that will actually protect your family through winter. The Amish aren't happier because they're more virtuous. They're more grounded because their threat detection system has a real job to do. And here's what happens next, the part that most documentaries miss. Once you've solved today's real problems, you get to rest. Genuinely rest. Not the kind of rest where you're scrolling through your phone waiting for an email, half expecting bad news. Real rest. Sabbath rest. The kind where your body knows there's nothing left to worry about because you handled it. The Amish eat dinner, sit together, talk, maybe play a board game. They go to bed knowing that everything that could be done today has been done. Tomorrow will bring the same challenges, but they've already proven they can solve them. For someone living in modern society, this is almost impossible to access. You can't unelectrify your house. You can't make your job into a real, tangible, solvable by lunch problem. You can't retroactively create genuine stakes in a world where everything is mediated by invisible systems and algorithms. But you can start small. You can identify one real problem, one thing in your physical life that actually matters, and solve it thoroughly. Maybe it's growing food, even in a small space. Maybe it's learning to preserve it. Maybe it's understanding your water supply, your energy use, your shelter, your heating. Maybe it's teaching a skill to someone who depends on you, the way Samuel's father taught him, the way his grandfather taught his father. Pick one. Do it. Master it. Experience what it feels like to solve a problem that isn't manufactured by your own mind. That's where the peace lives. Not in rejection of the modern world, not in judgment of those who live differently, but in the simple, profound experience of having real work and real rest, of knowing what you're responsible for and delivering, of seeing the direct line between your effort and your survival. The Amish farmer doesn't go to bed thinking about what could go wrong tomorrow, because he's already spent all day making sure the most likely things won't. He doesn't scroll through anxiety-producing news because he doesn't know about most of it. He doesn't compare his life to someone else's highlight reel because he doesn't have anyone else's highlight reel to compare it to. He's not free from problems. He's free from the mental machinery that manufactures problems faster than he can solve them. And that, it turns out, is the only freedom that actually matters. If you made it this far, you understand something that most people spend years in therapy trying to learn. You've seen how a different structure creates a different nervous system response. And now the question becomes, what are you going to do with that knowledge? I've put together a comprehensive guide that goes even deeper into the psychology of work, rest, and real survival. The historical context of how the Amish preserve these practices, and most importantly, practical frameworks you can apply to your own life to start solving real problems instead of creating imaginary ones. This guide isn't something I'm giving away. It's a resource that's available in the description and pinned to the top comment, and it's designed for people who are serious about making this shift. It's the deeper manual that this video is just the introduction to. But here's the immediate challenge I want you to take on this week. Identify one real, solvable problem in your physical life, something that has genuine stakes, and spend time solving it, not scrolling about it, not thinking about it, solving it. Work with your hands, see the before and after, experience what it feels like to have real problems and real rest. That's the practice. That's the shift. Thank you for watching all the way through. I know this video took us somewhere deeper than the usual look at how people live differently documentary format. If this landed with you, please subscribe. I make videos every week exploring these forgotten ways of thinking and being that actually create peace instead of just talking about it. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and if you experienced any part of this video, I'd genuinely love to read your comment below. Tell me what one real problem you're going to solve this week. Let's build this community together.